Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Welcome into the Steelers Talk Live Show. It's our first of the 2025 offseason for your Pittsburgh Steelers. Coop, it was unfortunate. Couldn't get the dub versus those dreaded Ratbirds on Wild Card Weekend. 5 straight losses, and despite that, doesn't look like there's going to be any changes fundamentally to the coaching staff.
Doesn't surprise me. I knew they were going to bring Mike Tomlin back. I thought they might make a change at offensive coordinator. But yeah, I'm not shocked that they're running it back, even though that's not what the fans wanted.
You know, the only one that I could maybe see happening is if they fire Terrell Austin. I could see them doing it.
But it doesn't change anything.
But it doesn't change anything because Tomlin's just going to get another one of his minions to go in there and run his defense.
Correct.
All right, so getting rid of Terrell Austin does pretty much nothing to me. Maybe it increases organization. You know, maybe the organization of the week looks better with a different defensive coordinator. I don't know. But it's still going to be the same scheme as long as Mike Tomlin is here in Pittsburgh. But we got a bunch of great content to kick off the offseason here in the Steel City. First up, the latest Steelers news and rumors. We're going to talk a little bit about Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, their futures with this football team. And then Mike McCarthy is now available.
He's a Yinzer.
Could the Steelers maybe consider moving off Mike Tomlin to bring back the Pittsburgh native?
I don't think they consider moving off Tomlin. I think if they moved off Tomlin, McCarthy would be at or near the top of the list.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll talk about that a little bit at the top of today's show. Then we'll get into the Steelers 2025 cut candidates. We put out a video earlier breaking down the Steelers free agents that are going to be hitting the open market. Today I'm going to be telling you guys about the cut candidates, the players I think the Steelers could cut to save some cap space and kind of give them as much room as possible to make some big moves here during the 2025 offseason. We also have the final segment today. Coop is one that's pretty nice. It's pretty fun. It is the top 8 decisions that are going to shape what the Pittsburgh Steelers look like next season. So I can't wait to get into this first kind of live show here of this, what we're calling the Steelers Talk Offseason Blitz. We're doing 2 videos a day on this channel until pretty much we run out of videos to get you guys ready for this offseason. So here's our live schedule this week, guys. We're going live. Of course, we're live right now, but we're also going to go live on Thursday. This is going to be kind of the live schedule we try to keep the entire offseason, Mondays and Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to try to keep this as the kind of our normal offseason schedule, so just keep that in mind. Mondays and Thursdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the start.
Except maybe next Monday, I think we should go live a little earlier because there is a national championship game.
That is true. National championship game is a little earlier, so we might go live maybe 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern next Monday. But I want to see all the real ones in the chat, man. We got 150 people here to kick off the offseason with us here. Who's the real ones? I want to see them down there in the chat. We got Terza Bullware in here. What's up, Terza? We got Voxy. He says, do you like my profile picture? Yes, we love your profile picture, Voxy. We got Damian Roy. Damian Roy is in here.
Shout out Damian Roy.
Shout out to Damian. We got Offsides Edits in here. Brock Walker's here. We got Nico. We've got Zachary Showers. We've got Jover, which is what the Steelers season is. We got Donna Elliott. We got OT Baller. We got Shad McBaggins, OT Baller. We've got Christian here. We got Guniel. We've got Asia Roberson. We've got...
What did you say?
Mando Booty.
Asia Roberson. Asia.
Asia. It's Asia Roberson. What? I'm an idiot. Mikey Glenn is here. Billy Dentz is here. Michael Kiter's here. I saw Dylan Lewandowski in here earlier. Got Jamie Ellis in here. Sasha. We got Will Torres. Sasha says that, let us know that Justin Fields politely declined media interview today. Yeah, and I think a lot of players after losing a playoff game, they decline to talk to the media. Russell Wilson and Pat Freiermuth did talk to the media.
Yeah.
Russ says that it's his desire to come back next year as the starting quarterback of the Steelers.
We'll see.
It's a two-way street, though, guys. Like, I'm sure Russ wants to come back, but do the Steelers want him back? I guess we're going to have to find out on that. All right, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And Game Time has a brand new feature on their app called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you guys got to do is select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you click into an account or into an event you want to go see. And then the Game Time app automatically filters through their entire database of every single ticket available on their database to find you the best tickets at the best prices with the best views so you and your family can get the best deals on any ticket you buy for any event. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. All-in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Was that a yawn there?
No. That's me. I'm having my vitamin water here, and sometimes a burp will come up, but I can't let it out because that's disgusting. I don't want to do our sponsor dirty there. But if you guys want to get on the show, we already have a couple super chats coming in here that we'll get to here momentarily. But if you want to get a comment, if you got a question you want to ask on the show, you guys can super chat to get it up next to me here on screen. And we do have a little bit of a donation menu today, guys. We'll get to that in just a second. But my man Justin Watson coming in says, I gave you grief about number 3, but I respect the heck out of you and this channel way more than I can say about other Steelers channels. Justin, you know I love you, man. Sometimes we may disagree, and yeah, you did give me grief about 3, but you know what, Justin?
Families fight, man.
I appreciate people having respectful disagreements, all right? And Justin's one of those guys that does a good job respectfully disagreeing, and it's important to not be in an echo chamber, right? It's important to have your views challenged. And, if there's legitimate disagreements and there's valid arguments on both sides of an argument, and I think this was certainly a topic that there was valid sides of the argument. I think at the end of the day, though, Coop, whether it was Russ, whether it was Fields, I don't think the Steelers were getting past the first round.
They weren't. They absolutely weren't. And it's unfortunate, but
it's really tough. It's really, really tough, Coop, when you got a bad offensive line, a bad run game, lackluster weapons, and a bad let's call it what it is, a bad offensive game plan and play caller and Arthur Smith. So any super chat today, you guys get on the show. $5. We'll do Here We Go Steelers chants for you. So let's get a Here We Go Steelers for Mr. Justin. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. $10. We'll spin the wheel for you guys. We got a bunch of different things on the wheel today. We got push-ups. We've got shots for Coop.
There's some secret items.
We got Coop has put some secret items on today's wheel. So if you guys want us to spin the wheel today, $10. And every 10 that you spend. So if you put in $20, we spin the wheel twice. $30, we'll spin the wheel 3 times, whatever. $50, we'll spin the wheel 3 times, and I'll do 10 push-ups on top of that, all right? So if you guys want me to get things going today, let's get these super chats rolling to kick off the offseason here on Steelers Talk. If you guys want to send in a Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal, that's our preferred way that you guys send in money to this channel because YouTube takes a 30% cut of every single super chat you guys send in. So if you guys want more of your donation dollars to go to us here at Steelers Talk, you guys can send in Venmos at Jack Sperry, money sign Captain Jack 19 on Cash App, or at Captain Jack Rabbit on PayPal. All that information is also in the description of today's show. Damian Roy with a 5 coming in says Steelers sign AL 4 touchdowns in 1 game Bundy. I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
I don't think so.
I think that hopefully we can get somebody that's capable of getting 4 touchdowns in a game. That would certainly be nice, whether it be a running back, wide receiver, quarterback, whatever. Damian's going to be an adventure here on Steelers Talk this offseason. That's for damn sure. Gary Frank, $10, says thinking leads them to water. They have to want to drink the Kool-Aid. There's no one who is consistent as Tomlin. He gets you there every year. Who can fill those shoes?
That's the whole point, Gary. He gets you there, and that is part of the battle.
Yeah, Gary, I appreciate where you're coming at there. And, I think that there's a lot of truth to what Gary's saying. Mike Tomlin is legitimately a really good leader, all right? And the teams that he cultivates and the culture that he has cultivated, I mean, these teams do not give up, all right? Whenever there's adversity, they're going to find a way to overcome, all right? And that's why this team has not had a losing season under Mike Tomlin in 18 seasons. But there's also a reason why this team only has 4 years where they've won a playoff game.
Absolutely.
All right, and that is because Tomlin focuses way too much on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to be paying 5 defensive players next year, Coop, over $100 million. against the cap.
What a joke.
They're going to be the most expensive defense in the league again next year. And, if you're not spending money on offense and you're not innovative on offense and if you're boring on offense, your ceiling can only go so high. So that's my issue with Mike Tomlin. Gary, I appreciate you. I have a lot of love and respect for Mike Tomlin, though. And even if they did move on from him, I would wish him the best.
I'm very curious to see how you're going to pronounce this name.
Jason Hiya says, why not call Bruce Arians to help fix the offense? Because Bruce is like 90, and he
appreciate you, Jason Wynn.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Jason. Hiya. I'm sorry. That's the way I'm gonna be pronouncing it.
It's Wynn.
I know it's a win, but it looks like hiya.
Bruce Arians is on the cusp of death.
Yeah, I have a lot of love and appreciation for Bruce Arians. As he was the offensive coordinator here last time, the confetti was falling on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and Byron Leftwich is the next closest thing. All right, he's his protege. So if you want Arians' offense, I would say go out and get Byron Leftwich.
You could maybe bring him in as a consultant.
Yeah, I mean maybe. Why not? I mean, I certainly wouldn't hate it. I have a lot of love for Bruce, but Tomlin did fire him, so it was not exactly the most.
Very true.
It wasn't necessarily the best marriage here in Pittsburgh. You guys can give me a follow on X. I'm going to be putting out my Russell Wilson film study from this wild card loss versus Baltimore. 20 of 29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. At least, looking at the box score, it wasn't Russ's fault, all right? Or at least it wasn't all Russ's fault. I think he contributed to the loss, but the defense played absolutely atrociously. The offensive line was bad. There was no run game. And, there was drops and, not getting past the sticks. There's a lot of stuff that didn't go the Steelers' way, and it was more than just Russell Wilson not playing good football. So make sure you guys give me a follow on X at Jack_Sperry. If you guys want a shout out on today's show, spam those me's. If you've liked today's stream, we've got 190 people watching live right now. We got 45 likes right now. So our goal is to get to 100 likes by the end of today's stream. So we really do appreciate all of your guys' support. And in just a second here, we're going to get into our first. Segment. But a $10 super chat here from Joshua Bailey. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. And Joshua says, do you think the Steelers should look at offensive line in free agency or the draft? I don't believe in Broderick or Mason. Josh, I don't know what you go by, but, man, I think those two are very big question marks. And I think that what we know about Arthur Smith's offense is that you need to have a really good offensive line for it to work because you have to have a really good run game for it to work. And if Broderick and Mason show up and they're not good players for this offensive line next year, I mean, that pretty much you could say goodbye to any chance at offensive success for the Pittsburgh Steelers next season. So you really have to make sure Broderick and Mason are getting the right development. Maybe that means firing Pat Meyer and bringing in a new offensive line coach. Maybe that means going out and getting veteran players to fill out this offensive line for next season. But, I mean, they spent relatively high draft picks on those two. And based on the way they're talking about those players, I think they're going to start them next season. All right, so let's spin the wheel here for my man Josh.
I believe we have a couple of them here.
We have a couple of them?
We have Josh and we have Gary, who we need to spin the wheel
Josh
for.
and Gary. Let's do Gary's.
We'll go Gary first.
Let's do Gary's first. And by the way, if it lands on boot, it has to land on boot three times. All right?
That's one.
All right, so that's one. If we get to 3 boot spins, then we'll do it again. No.
What?
I would, because it consists. Okay, never mind. We're good. All right, 20 jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Let's get today's show started off right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, man. Now that I'm tired, let's get to our first segment of the day.
You gonna be able to do this show?
I don't know, man. I mean, 20 jumping jacks. I'm already a little tired to start today's show here, Coop. But we got a couple of super chats rolling in.
Wrong one.
And this one's coming in from Nico. Damien, love you, man. But, Appreciate you. But Nico comes in, says, for offense, I think you hire new offensive coordinator and offensive scheme that fits Fields. If he comes back on a good deal, if it goes bad, you draft a quarterback next draft. I mean, honestly, Nico, that might be the most likely scenario. We're going to talk about those scenarios on today's show, where I think that Tomlin and Art both really like Justin Fields and his skill set. So I think the chances of him being named the franchise quarterback heading into next season are actually relatively high. And it's probably the most likely scenario at this point, in my opinion. I'll talk about some of my concerns about that on today's show, but I do think it's probably the most likely scenario at this point in time that Fields is your starting quarterback week 1 of next year. So on today's show, latest Steelers news and rumors. We'll talk about Russ. We'll talk about Fields. We'll talk about Mike McCarthy at the end of the show. Then we'll go into my Steelers 2025 cut candidates. And then I've got 8 of the biggest decisions the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have to make here in 2025 that's going to shape just how good this team can be for next season. So make sure you guys strap in. It's going to be a fun Steelers Talk live show. Let's get into it right now with our first segment, the latest news and rumors surrounding the black and gold. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we got a bunch of great Steelers news and rumors to cover with you guys on today's second Steelers Talk video of the day. First up, we're going to be talking about why I think Russell Wilson's time as a Pittsburgh Steeler is likely done, and he's going to have to try to find a new home in free agency next year. I'm also going to make the best possible case for why Justin Fields is probably going to be QB1 of the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 season. And we'll finish up today's show with the potential of Mike McCarthy being named the next Steelers head coach if they decide to move off of Mike Tomlin, which is pretty unlikely. But let's talk about it at the end of the show. Before we get into it today, guys, make sure you give me a follow on X if you haven't already. I put up my film analysis out there. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of NFL draft content on there throughout the draft process. I'm one of the lead NFL draft analysts here at Chat Sports. We're going to be putting out a lot of stuff on my Twitter during this process. Go to @Jack_Sperry for that. Also, anybody who follows me on X today, or if you're already following me, shares this video on X today is going to get a shout out on a future edition of Steelers Talk later this week. All right, so let's start with Russell Wilson. You guys know that I advocated for the Steelers to go get Russell Wilson last offseason. I advocated for him to start over Justin Fields, and I advocated for him to keep starting him all the way to the very end after even through that 5-game losing streak. But I think that his time is likely coming to an end here in Pittsburgh after that 5-game losing skid. And, you take a look at the numbers, and it was, without a question, a skid. All right, the first 6 games with the Steelers, really, really good stuff. They were top 5 in scoring offense during that time. They were doing a really good job. He was doing a really good job, with the efficiency and yards per attempt. It was the highest of his career during that time. He was getting the ball into the end zone relatively frequently. Wasn't really turning the ball over all that much. The EPA was top 10 in the National Football League. And, of course, the Steelers were 5-1. But then, as the season went on and, the offensive line in the run game continued to get worse, George Pickens got hurt, taking away his number one weapon in the defense, got a lot worse down the stretch. I mean, the record goes from 5-1 to 1-5. The points per game go from 28.6 to a measly 16.3. The yards per game go down almost 100 yards per game for him passing. And the EPA goes down almost 50 points compared to the first 6 games he played in the black and gold. So it is a big drop-off from Russell Wilson. And, I don't think that the offensive collapse was all Russ's fault. All right, I think that Russ was put in a really difficult situation. And, I think whether it was Russ or Justin Fields, it probably would have ended the same way where, either the Steelers don't make the playoffs or maybe they make it with Fields, but it probably ends in a first-round exit as well. And the simple reality is, guys, when you got all these other problems on your offense, it's going to be tough for a limited quarterback like Russell Wilson to get the job done and be the main engine of the offense, man. You got to have a better offensive line. You can't have that bottom 5 run game that the Steelers had this year. The lackluster weapons, we talked about it all offseason. You got to get another receiver outside of George Pickens. They failed to do that, and you guys saw the results. And then the mediocre play calling from Arthur Smith was a problem as well. Okay, and Russell Wilson certainly got pressured quite a bit this season as well. And, I don't think Russ did necessarily the best job handling the pressure, but he was 28th in average time to throw. That was actually quite a bit faster than what it was with the Denver Broncos the season prior. He got the ball out of his hands about 3/4 of a second faster than he did with Denver the season prior. And, the pressure, you just look at the pass protection, man. He ranked 28th in average time to throw, but in the pressure and sack departments, 40th and 38th. That tells me that the offensive line was not holding up their end of the bargain. Broderick Jones and Dan Moore Jr. were one of the only 2. There's only 3 tackles in the league that gave up 10 or more sacks per PFF this year. The Steelers had 2 of them. So Russ didn't have the best help, but he certainly didn't do the best with pressure either. And my take on it, guys, is that I think that, if the offense would have been as good, and the run game was as good, and the offensive line was as good as maybe the expectation heading into the season was, I think that Russell Wilson, in a game manager type role that could throw the ball down the field on play action, I really do believe this team would have won the division, and I think they would have won a home playoff game if the offensive line and if the run game was as good as it was promised heading into the season. But this is the run game that we ended up getting. Not only did you really pound the football, all right, so top 5 in attempts per game for the Steelers, so they really tried to make fetch happen, but as you guys can see here, fetch just wasn't going to happen, guys. 25th in yards per attempt and 28th in success rate for the Pittsburgh Steelers rushing game this year. This was supposed to be the bread and butter of the Steelers offense. They were supposed to be built like the Eagles, like the Ravens. Run it down your throat and at will, and that just wasn't the Steelers run game this year, and that forced Russell Wilson to get it going here. And, I think that the things that they brought him in to do, be a game manager, throw the ball downfield off of play action, execute on a 3rd and long every once in a while. I actually think Russell Wilson did those things, specific things, actually pretty darn well. And you have to remember here, Russ was not brought into the Pittsburgh Steelers to be a savior, all right? He was not brought in for this offense to revolve around him. He just wasn't. He was brought in to be a game manager type quarterback that, goes under center, play action fakes, throw the ball deep off of a really strong run game. And we saw that the run game wasn't holding up their end, and then that really put the Steelers in a tough position and putting Russ in a situation they're just not built to really execute anymore. This is what the Steelers were expecting from Russell Wilson. Protect the football, throw the ball downfield, and save some drives on a 3rd and long once in a while. Well, he did those things. We can take a look at the numbers here. His turnover-worthy play percentage this year was 3rd in the National Football League. He has been one of the best in NFL history at protecting the football, being smart with the ball. And, there's specific games where he didn't do a good job of that, but generally speaking, he was one of the best at protecting the football out of all quarterbacks in the National Football League this year. Then when it comes to throwing the ball down the field, this is what the Steelers brought him in to do. He was arguably the best downfield passer in the National Football League. Big-time throw percentage. A lot of these are downfield throws. 6th in the league in that, and they use 1st in downfield yards per attempt and 1st in downfield EPA per attempt. So when he was hitting his back foot, throwing the ball down the field, he was the best quarterback in the National Football League. And, you look at the EPA per attempt on 3rd and long, he was 4th in the NFL. So he was one of the best quarterbacks in 3rd and long situations when the defense knew he had to throw the football and throw the ball down the field. So Russell Wilson, in my opinion, still has some very good arm talent. He can throw the ball down the field, especially off of his first read. All right, and that is the type of quarterback that I think Russell Wilson can be in the right system. But bottom line here, guys, is that Pittsburgh's offense as a whole was bad enough where it asked Russ to carry the entire unit instead of being a supplementary piece, and that's just not the type of quarterback Russell Wilson is anymore. Back in Seattle, back in the days where he was, competing for MVP trophies, he could just run around, make magic happen. It didn't matter how bad the offensive line was for the Seattle Seahawks. It didn't matter what weapons he had. He would find a way, and he was one of the most athletic and gifted playmakers out of structure that we've seen in the National Football League. And, my take on Russ absolutely is that he is still a starting capable quarterback in the National Football League. I absolutely think he's a top 32 quarterback in this league today. And I think that you can win with him, if you put him in a system with a solid run game, if you put him in a system with a good play caller, if you do everything you need to do around him, I think that he can still be a very effective downfield thrower, and you can still win with Russell Wilson, but I don't think you are ever going to win because of Russell Wilson now, because he doesn't have the athletic skill set to do that kind of stuff anymore. So why not bring Russell Wilson back? Jack, if he's still a good quarterback, why won't the Steelers bring him back then? Well, that's a very good question, and here are the reasons why. I think there are 2 key limitations that Russell Wilson has in his game at this point in his career. Number 1, he doesn't have the athleticism to be a dynamic playmaker out of structure anymore. He takes too many sacks because of that. And then number 2, he's not tall enough to really be a true pocket passer and really make these high-level progressions post-snap in the pocket. It's just not his game, and he can't see over the middle of the field, so it's not even really his fault. It's just the way God made him. He's a smaller quarterback, and because of that, he's got limitations as a true pocket passer. So this is what Russell Wilson needs to succeed in the National Football League, all right? And you really need all 4 of these things to be there, or he's not going to be like a top 15 level quarterback, all right? He needs a high-end run game. He needs a top-end pass protection unit on the offensive line. He didn't have either of those this year in Pittsburgh. You need multiple downfield threats, and then you need a good fit for him, kind of like a run-and-shoot style offensive coordinator calling the plays for him on offense. And the reality here, guys, is that Arthur Smith prefers quarterbacks that are really good at progressing over the middle of the field, throwing those backside digs, throwing over the middle of the field in a full field progression. And that's just not what Russell Wilson does. So this offseason, I actually think Arthur Smith is going to have quite a bit of say in who the quarterback is going to be next year. And I just don't think Russell Wilson is the type of quarterback that he is going to pound the table to bring back next year. And, I think that there's worse options out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position. I still think Russell Wilson is a starting, capable player in this league. But personally, I would prefer to upgrade for somebody that fits Arthur Smith's offense just a little bit better. And honestly, I'd prefer a quarterback that doesn't need a perfect situation to be successful. That's the type of quarterback Russell Wilson is right now, man. He's got to have that good protection, good run game, downfield threats, and the play caller that fits his play style. And, I don't want to have to go 4 for 4 on those things in order for the offense to be successful, guys. I want somebody that fits this offense a little bit better and somebody that requires a little bit less help to be a productive quarterback in this league. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. What's the % chance that Russell Wilson is back with the team next year? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me down there in the comment section. At this point, I'm going to give it about a 10% shot, guys. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break. And when that ad break comes, make sure you guys go down there and answer today's pinned question. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be telling you guys why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers most likely are going to turn to Justin Fields as their starting quarterback heading into the 2025 season. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time. And Game Time is the best place to get all the tickets for sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And Game Time has a new feature on their app called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you click into an event you want to go see, and Game Time automatically shows you all the best deals on all the best tickets with the best views and best pricing so that you and your family can always get the best possible deals no matter when you go to a live event. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. All-in pricing so you don't get slapped with the crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So now let's talk about Justin Fields here, man, because I think as we stand here today, Fields is the most likely option to be the Steelers' QB1 for Week 1 of the 2025 regular season. All right, and there's a couple reasons for that, and let's break those down here. First up, I think Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith really seem to like Justin Fields. All right, they love his physical skill set, and it's easy to see why. He is big, he is fast, he is dynamic as a rusher, he's got incredible arm talent. All right, and I think Arthur Smith thinks that he can help develop Justin Fields into the potential star quarterback that he certainly has the physical potential to become. Second, I think that, he already knows the offense. He's been here for a whole year, and Justin himself has said that he doesn't really want to go to another team next offseason because he doesn't want to learn yet another offense on another team. He wants to come back to the Steelers because he knows this Arthur Smith offense, and he wants to come back and really in year 2 show that he can be the starting capable quarterback that many Steelers fans believe he has the potential to become. Number 3, I think that he's going to be relatively cheap. If the Steelers go to Justin and say, hey, would you take a 1-year, $15 million deal to be the bona fide starter of this football team next year? Honestly, I think Justin Fields would probably say yes to that. All right, so we'll see what the dollar figure ends up being. But because Justin, I think, wants to be here and he wants to be the starting quarterback, I think the Steelers could get him for a very, very team-friendly deal to give him a shot to be this team's QB1 of the future heading into 2025. And the final point here is that out of all the options that the Steelers have at their disposal at the quarterback position, Fields probably undeniably has the highest upside of any of the options out there. And if Justin Fields breaks out, if he becomes the player that he is physically capable of becoming, the Steelers are going to be back in Super Bowl contention, all right? Because you're going to have that super expensive, really, really good defense hopefully next year, and then you're going to have a superstar quality quarterback in Justin Fields that can beat you with his arm and his legs, and he's going to completely be able to elevate this offense to make it one of the most balanced teams in the National Football League. And, oh, yeah, you got a great leader in Mike Tomlin leading the way in 2025. But the issue is, guys, I think going with Fields is one of the most risky options for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Now, maybe you want to say, high risk, high reward. Maybe that's what the Steelers need to be doing at this point. But there's no doubt about it in my mind, man. Justin Fields certainly has the potential to be a complete dud for the Pittsburgh Steelers as their starting quarterback next year, and it could lead to the first losing season of Mike Tomlin's career if that's the case, because Fields needs to make a significant step forward as an in-structure playmaker if he's going to become the player that many Steelers fans believe he is going to become. And, he showed a lot of the same things in Pittsburgh this year that he showed in Chicago, and frankly, he showed at Ohio State that really had people concerned with him coming out of college. You take a look at my scouting report for him. Obviously, the size, the rushing ability, the arm talent, and the playmaking instincts, all those things are super easy for people to see, and that's what gives him so much potential. But all of the little things, all the details, all of the nuances of the position, those are the things that Fields struggles in. Mental processing, vision downfield, pocket presence, accuracy, timing, all of these things, touch passing. Justin Fields struggles in these areas, which is why he's never been a good in-structure playmaker. Right now, I have him ranked as a high-end backup and an upside project for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And some notable Fields stats that you guys need to be made aware of here. All of these are like the main analytical categories that people look at when evaluating quarterbacks. He doesn't rank in the top 16, the top half of the league, really in any of them. The big time throw percentage, by the way, is 24th in the league at 3.4%. We didn't put that in there. But you look at all these, 25th, 24th, 38th, 24th. Like all these are in the 20s, 30s, or lower, and he's still holding on to the ball for forever. He ranks 40th in average time to throw, which obviously increases his pressure rate. And then you look at the result breakdowns here. So a positive play is any play above a 0 EPA. So 42.9% of Fields' plays were a positive play last year. That ranks 32nd. Then the boom percentage. These are the plays with an EPA of over 1. 34th in the league in that category. So he wasn't making a lot of big plays in the 6 games he was here with Pittsburgh. Then in the bust percentage there, it's 28th too. So these are not very good numbers here. His boom percentage is almost just as high as his bust percentage, and these numbers are going to have to increase significantly if he is going to be the player that catapults this team to title contention in 2025. And he really does need to step up his game, man. He didn't even match Russell Wilson's production this year, and that is including the 6-game collapse that we talked about earlier in this video. You take a look at the 2024 season stats for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields this year, and the offense was better with Russell Wilson. And it's not like this offense was stellar with Russell Wilson at quarterback, right? Fields and the offense was really struggling in those first 6 weeks, and the reason why they went 4-2 is because the defense was giving up like less than 10 points per game in the games that they won. So they weren't winning because of Justin Fields. The offense was really struggling. And then you look at the downfield passing stats here. All these stats are better for Russell Wilson. The completion percentage is better. Catchable ball percentage is way higher. Yards per attempt is way higher, and he almost doubled his EPA per attempt when throwing the ball 10-plus yards down the field. So I think these numbers illustrate the kind of growth Justin Fields needs to make if he is going to really become the franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I hear you saying at home, but Jack, Fields' legs makes up for everything he lacks with his arm. Well, at least in terms of EPA per play last year, that wasn't really the case. His EPA per rush attempt this year was 0.04. That's 26th among quarterbacks in the league. So, listen, I think Justin's better than this. I think if you give him an entire season, he'd rank in the top 10 in this category. But the idea that he's going to completely make up for all of his shortcomings as a quarterback and as a passer with just his legs is just not the way the quarterback position works in the National Football League. And he's going to have to become a legit pocket passer if he wants to be this team's franchise quarterback in the future. And that is the bottom line, guys. The Steelers would be gambling with their 2025 season if they turn to Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. And they're really banking on him and taking a huge risk that he's going to make a gigantic step forward in his development as a pocket passer. But listen, man, maybe high risk, high reward is exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers need at the quarterback position. Because if Justin Fields hits, this team's back in title contention. And if he misses, maybe Mike Tomlin gets fired because this team doesn't get a winning season, right? Maybe this is the exact move that the Steelers need to make. But personally, guys, my preference is to get an outside upgrade, whether that's somebody like Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford, I'm willing to look at guys like Derek Carr and Geno Smith as well to see who the best option is for this offense. And honestly, I'd give Arthur Smith a lot of ability to make the decision on who he wants at quarterback next season. So you tell me. Let me know down there in the comment section who should be Pittsburgh's QB1 next season. Let me know down there in the comment section. I can't wait to see all the names you guys put down there in the comment section. Now, before I go here, I do want to talk about some coaching rumors real quick. Mike McCarthy is now the former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He and the Cowboys have mutually agreed to part ways. Here was the tweet from Tom Pelissero earlier today confirming the news. So McCarthy is officially up for grabs. The Cowboys are officially looking for a new head coach. And, I really do doubt that the Steelers would move off of Mike Tomlin at this point in time. But if they did at this point, I think it would be for a guy like Mike McCarthy, somebody that is a Pittsburgh native, all right? He grew up in this city, grew up a Steelers fan, and he would potentially love to coach this football team if he got the opportunity to do so. And he's also been one of the most consistent, stable leaders at the top of an NFL franchise for a very long time. He's got a 60.8% career win percentage. That's very, very high for somebody that's coached as long as he has. Plus, he's won a Super Bowl as well. Plus, he's an offensive mind, so maybe the Steelers can officially make that transition from the defensive-focused culture with Mike Tomlin to an offensive-minded culture with Mike McCarthy. Now, personally, guys, Mike wouldn't be my first choice to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you want to see my personal preferences, you guys can check out the video I put out earlier this week. Just spoiler alert here, Brian Flores, the former Steelers linebackers coach, is number one on my list. So I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. But if the choice is between Mike McCarthy or Mike Tomlin for next season, personally, I am going with Mike McCarthy. I am that dead set on trying to shift the culture here in Pittsburgh from a defensive culture to an offensive-led culture and try to get some more money on the offensive side of the ball, all these different things. I really have a lot of appreciation for Mike Tomlin and his leadership and his winning culture he's cultivated here in Pittsburgh, but I do think the 6 playoff losses in a row have been enough. So pick one for me down there in the comments section. Would you rather go with Mike Tomlin or Mike McCarthy? Type MT for Mike Tomlin or MM if you'd rather go with McCarthy. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's show. I know today was a long video. Lots to talk about here to kick off the offseason. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already because we got more Steelers content coming your way all throughout this week. Woo! I'm a little tired from all that talking there, Coop.
By the way.
How long was that? Did you win?
Nailed it.
Yeah, you won another bet.
I nailed it.
Goodness gracious. Coop bet me
I'm hot.
that I couldn't do that a segment unless, what was it, 22 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
What was the final tally?
We'll have to see once we put the end screen and intro on. But
is there a point where you stopped counting?
It's roughly 22 to 23.
It was. I remember after I got done talking about Russ, I'm like, yeah, this is.
I was like, this is a long one.
Like that was a sizable portion right there. So coming up here, we got the Steelers 2025 cut candidates. That one is going to be a much shorter video. I promise you. Had a lot to talk about with the quarterbacks in that last segment. But get your.
That's the biggest story this offseason.
It is. It really is. It really is. And then there's other big stories, and we'll talk about those in our third segment today. But did we get any more super chats?
We got 3 from Gary Frank.
Gary, what's up, man? Says, I've heard rumors that Nick Chubb wants to move on from the Browns. Do you think he would be a good fit? I think Nick Chubb is cooked. He's had too many lower.
He's Jover.
He's had too many lower body injuries. Now I know Mike Tomlin really likes him.
Mr. Chubb.
Some Mr. Chubb. So it wouldn't shock me if the Steelers got him. But Gary, personally, I would much rather draft a young stud in the NFL draft this year to be your new number one running back, but it honestly wouldn't shock me. Gary again says, what's your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders or Carson Beck in the draft?
Carson Beck's going back to school.
Carson Beck is going back to school. He's going to Miami. He just transferred to Miami.
Wonder why he's going there.
Yeah, exactly. And then Shedeur Sanders is going to go in the top 10 of the draft. So the Steelers, I just don't think they're going to trade up for him.
But you were grading him, and you said you have a lower grade than most?
Yeah, I have Shedeur Sanders graded as a late first round, early second round quarterback. I don't think he's deserving of a top 5, top 10 pick. But I think that teams are desperate for quarterbacks, and I think
he'll get drafted high.
I think that the Las Vegas Raiders will draft him. I think the Las Vegas Raiders love Shedeur Sanders, and I think that they will bring him in. And Gary says, you talk about risk with Fields. Wasn't Big Ben a risk? Look how that turned out. He needs to work hard in the offseason. I mean, we can talk about working hard all we want. Justin Fields has worked hard in the offseason every year he's been in the league.
This was year 5, man.
I mean, are we saying Justin Fields just hasn't worked hard in the offseason? since he's entered the league? Of course he has. He's an extremely hard worker. He's a great kid. But, for somebody to put 4 years of tape of bad in-structure playmaking on tape and then to have the expectation that it's magically going to just turn around and he's going to be an awesome in-structure quarterback in year 5, is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. We've seen guys later in their careers get better.
I'll go ahead and say it's impossible.
But it's a low possibility in my opinion. And
Absolutely agree.
And I think the most likely scenario for the Steelers, if they bring back Justin Fields next year, I think he's going to be like a bottom 10 level starting quarterback. He'll have some very nice splash plays, but the team as a whole and the offense will be bottom 10 in the league, and they'll be right back where they were this year, losing in the first round of the playoffs.
I don't disagree.
That would be my prediction if they bring back Justin Fields. Now, I've been wrong before, and I would love to be wrong on this, because if he hits, he's a superstar in this league, and the Steelers are back in Super Bowl contention. All right?
I just don't see it.
I would love to be wrong on this, Gary. I really would. He's a great kid. I would love for him to be the franchise quarterback of this team. But as an objective analyst of this game and somebody that prides himself on quarterback evaluation, I just don't know if I see the future with Justin Fields. But like I said, I think he's the most likely option because I think Tomlin and Art really like him. So get ready to see some Justin Fields. I think he's the most likely quarterback option for this football team. Okay, let's get into the second segment of today's show. My cut candidates for the Pittsburgh Steelers to save this team some money heading into the 2025 offseason. Let's get into that segment coming at you right now. Today on Steelers Talk, I am breaking down my list of all the most likely Steelers players currently slated to be on the 2025 Steelers roster that I think are most likely going to get cut this offseason to save this team some cap space and get themselves ready for potential moves like big trades, free agency, all these different things. So really do appreciate you guys stopping by today. Make sure you guys get down there in the comments section and let me know which Steeler will surprisingly not be on the team this offseason. All right, could it be George Pickens getting traded? Could it be Justin Fields not being brought back? Which surprising Steeler won't be on the team in 2025? Let me know down there in the comments section. Can't wait to see your thoughts. All right, so let's start here. This is our starting point, okay? So according to Over the Cap, the Steelers currently have $52,353,766 to work with their 2025 cap, and that's before cuts, that's before restructures. So that's already a pretty decent chunk of change, and that thing is only going to keep getting bigger and bigger as the Steelers make these money moves here this offseason. So let's start with the first cut candidate here, and this one's the most obvious. Preston Smith, the guy you traded for from Green Bay. If you cut him, $0 in dead cap, and you save $13.4 million. Now, Preston had a pretty decent season here in Pittsburgh. He came up with some big sacks and some timely moments. I think he was a really good rotational guy, but his cap hit is just too high, guys, and you can save too much money by letting him go. So I think this one's a no-brainer. Preston Smith is going to be cut. Now, that doesn't mean the Steelers can't bring him back at a lower contract number and be a fourth rotational edge rusher again. They're just not going to be paying him $13.4 against the cap. Another player that could potentially be hitting the bricks is Larry Ogunjobi. Now, Larry O's been here for a little while now. You can save $7 million if you end up cutting him. Now, the thing about Pittsburgh is that I think that they like Larry O, and if they can afford to keep him, I think that they might. All right, like Larry O is the 5 technique in this system. He's by far the worst, defensive lineman on the Steelers. I mean, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benson, Alex Highsmith, T.J. Watt. It's not even close. Larry O is not in the same universe as those guys, in my opinion. And you take a look at his stats throughout the years, and, they've been pretty lackluster, all right? Let's be honest here, all right? Is this worth, not having $7 million in cap savings this year over? I mean, just 1.5 sacks this year in 15 games played, just 7 quarterback hits. Ogunjobi back in his day was pretty decent. I mean, back in 2021, 7 sacks as an interior pass rusher, 12 tackles for loss, but his numbers have been dipping as of late, and I think that the Steelers can really refresh at this position at the 3-4 defensive end and make this defensive line even more fearsome. Make the call for me down there in the comments section. Would you cut Larry Ogunjobi to save $7 million this offseason? Type C if you would cut him, or type K if you would keep him. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fume. While I'm talking about Fume, go down there, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and answer today's question. And let me ask you guys a question here. Have you ever caught yourself reaching for a bad habit? Maybe it's that moment when you're with friends and you just want to feel like you fit in. Well, that's where Fume comes in. It's not about quitting. It's about finding a better alternative. Fume, the sponsor of today's video, has created an innovative flavored air device that's perfect for those moments when you want to break away from bad habits and still have something enjoyable to reach for. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that draws flavor to your mouth, not your lungs. And it's a great way to satisfy your oral fixation with non-toxic flavors, free from nicotine or vapor, and it's safe to use anywhere. Fume's design is also about more than just flavor. It's an awesome fidget tool with magnets and clicks that help calm anxiety. You'll love how Fume feels because it's got premium quality, sleek design, and perfect for taking with you on the go. Physiology shows stopping a bad habit of cold turkey is very hard on your brain. Fume works by replacing your hand-to-mouth fixation, calming nervous tension through fidgeting, and distracting you from your bad habit with delicious flavor. Fume is also backed by doctors in the U.S. and continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products. Fume has already helped over 300,000 people build better habits. Try Fume today, and if you order your Journey Pack now using my code CHATSPORTS, you'll get a free Fume topper, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen, and a big thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Third cut candidate here, Cole Holcomb, and this one kills me, man, because, the golden mullet, the mullet in the middle, whatever you want to call him, man, and, it wasn't his fault. He got injured in the middle of the 2023 season, didn't play at all here in 2024, but you can save $6 million by letting him go, and I'm just not sure if those potential cap savings is worth passing on for somebody that hasn't played football in over a year and is coming off a very major knee injury. Like, if they want to bring him back on a more team-friendly deal, I'm all for that. I think that, he's a good team guy, he works hard, he's a good locker room dude, and this one really does kill me, but this is a business, guys, and I think the Steelers could use that $6 million in additional cap space. Cordero Patterson, let's just face it, guys, he's not the dynamic player he used to be. He was brought in to be a dynamic kick return man. He was far from that, in my opinion. And you can save $2.8 million by letting him go. I just don't really see the value of keeping Cordero Patterson around. He wasn't really a good kickoff return man this year, and he had a couple decent runs, but it's not like he was a big-time third running back that was awesome this year. So I just don't think he's a dynamic player anymore. I think he's getting older. I think he's honestly getting a bit fatter, and I think that it's time to let go of Cordero Patterson and really refresh this running back room. Then the final cut candidate that I want to talk about today in terms of the big names, Cameron Johnston. This is another guy that, it's not his fault, right? He got injured on week 1, and, they had to turn to Corliss Waitman for the rest of the season. But you can save $1.5 million here by letting him go. You could save even more than that if you make this a post-June 1st cut. And Corliss Waitman is less expensive than Johnston is, but he also had a really, really good season with the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? I think Waitman is good enough as a punter where you bring him back as the guy next year, and you're spending less money on a special teams position. You can spend more of your money on offense, on defense, and on things that are not special teams, right? So I think Johnston's a really good punter, but coming off of that really gruesome injury, I think there's a question mark as to just how good he's going to be moving forward, whereas we know Corliss Waitman can get the job done, and he's the cheaper option. So pick your punter down there in the comment section. I can't believe I'm doing this question, but let's do it, man. Cameron Johnston, type CJ if you want Johnston back and you want him to get his shot. I mean, he looks like Bill Burr, man. That's just, I mean, I kind of want a season of Cameron Johnston as the punter, but I also really like what Corliss Waitman did this year. Type CW down there in the comment section for Corliss. Some other potential cuts. These guys, it's not as much savings, but, if you want to save a little bit more dough, here and there to afford all the moves you want to make. Montravius Adams is a backup nose tackle at this point. You can save $2.2 million by letting him go. He's a really good culture guy, really plays with great effort. So I think, the Steelers might try to keep him as a backup nose tackle if they can. Mark Robinson, he's a backup kind of like special teams type player. But you can save 1.1 by letting him go. Connor Hayward the same way. I don't think they're going to let go of Captain Cam's brother. I think they're going to keep him around. But you can save 1.1 by letting him go. And then DeMarvin Leal, he had a really bad injury this year. You can save $1.4 million. It's been a big disappointment since this team drafted him. And honestly, I think I'd probably think about letting him go as well. So with our cuts here, depending on which players you want to cut and which ones you don't, I think that the Steelers could get anywhere between $76 and like $89 million in available cap space for the 2025 offseason to use on their free agents, to use on trades, to use on their draft picks, all these different things. And, it's going to come down to what Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin value here in these players that we talked about today and which ones they want on this roster for 2025. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button because we're going to have you covered for every single cut, every single signing, every single trade, every single draft pick. We're going to have you covered with breaking news coverage right here on Steelers Talk. If you made it to the end of today's video, make sure you type Real One down there in the comments section. I want to give a big thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's video. Scan the QR code on the screen right now and use code CHATSPORTS to get your free Fume topper when you order your journey pack today. All right, second one in the books. What do you think about Larry Ogunjobi here, Coop?
I like Larry, to be honest. I think he's a really good rotational player, but as we showed you, the stats, they kind of tell you that he's been declining as of late. And would I keep him? If I could cut him, save that $7 million, and then bring him back? I think that's what I would do. I think that would be my preferred method.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brock Walker here says, I'm ready for Jack to release his perfect offseason video.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming this week. It's coming on Thursday's live show, Brock. So make sure you watch us on Thursday. Dylan, we're going to be spinning the wheel for Dylan here. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. He says, I agree and like your points about Fields being the future. My concern is that Tomlin will decide to go with Russ over Fields.
Trader Joey.
Trader Joey, get out of here, man. Re-sign Fields and use draft picks to build around him. And Dylan, I think this is probably what they're going to do. But as I detailed in that first video, I think that I have my concerns with that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the chances of him becoming the star player that a lot of people think he can be is pretty, oh, come on. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're doing push-ups here on Steelers Talk. Thanks, Dylan. All right, so you want to put the camera on me here?
Yep, give me one moment.
And we'll get these push-ups going. Actually, do you want to go full screen here?
I can't see it.
What do you mean? Full screen with your camera.
We don't have that.
We did it on Commanders earlier this week.
Did we?
We did it yesterday for when I was doing push-ups.
Like this?
Like it was just a full screen from the producer camera. I don't know if that's set up.
It's not set up for sure.
All right, so we'll just do the normal box then. All right, I got to do 10 push-ups. Then we're going to get into our final segment here, which is the 8 decisions that are going to shape the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason this year. So don't go anywhere, guys. We got over 222 people watching. 13 likes away, all right? 13 likes away from 100. All right, let's
You ready?
I'm ready. Let's knock them out.
Let's count them out.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
oh.
At least they weren't burpees.
Yeah, at least they weren't burpees. Goodness, man. When Platinum made me do those burpees, and I way overestimated how crazy those burpees were going to be. All right, man. Let's get into this final segment here.
Major changes.
Major changes, major decisions that need to be made for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year are coming at you momentarily here, guys. And remember,
Are you all right there?
Yeah, I'm all right. Remember, $5 we'll wave the towel and go, here we go, Steelers for you guys. $10 we'll spin the wheel for you. And then $50 we'll spin the wheel 3 times, and it locks in 10 more push-ups for me. So if you like watching me do push-ups for some reason, send in those 50s. All right, let's get into it right now. My 2025 offseason preview here with the 8 biggest decisions the Steelers need to make here in 2025. Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to be previewing the 8 biggest decisions that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to make for the 2025 NFL offseason, and I'm going to be explaining how these decisions will shape what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do and going to be as a football team heading into the 2025 regular season. Welcome into the show, guys. If you are pumped for this offseason, make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon. Help this video out, and make sure you guys click that subscribe button as well, because we've got extensive offseason coverage on the Pittsburgh Steelers every single day. So the first decision that needs to be made is what, if any, coaching changes are there going to be to this unit? Now, the reports out there is that Mike Tomlin, Arthur Smith, Terrell Austin are likely safe. But the positional coaches, those are the ones where we might see some changes. And I do think Tomlin, Art, and Austin are going to be all back, all right? And even if they do fire Terrell Austin, all right? And, that is the move that they end up making. It's not going to make a whole lot of a difference, guys, and here's why. This is Mike Tomlin's defense, all right? Whoever's the defensive coordinator runs the defense that he wants to run and has run here in Pittsburgh since he took over all those years back. It's now been 18 seasons here in Pittsburgh, and they've run more or less the same defense in just about every single season. All right, so if you get rid of Terrell Austin, Tomlin's just going to hire another one of his minions to do his bidding. All right, so that's the way that it's going to go. So I really don't think firing Austin's going to change much defensively here in Pittsburgh. And, I think that the one positional coach that without question needs to go is offensive line coach Pat Meyer. I mean, how many offensive linemen and high draft picks is this guy and this team going to ruin before they realize that this guy might be the worst positional coach in the National Football League? I mean, Kevin Dotson was a bad player, and then he goes to the Los Angeles Rams and is immediately grading as a top 5 guard in all of football. I mean, first of all, it's Mike Tomlin putting him on the wrong side of the line. That's a classic Tomlin mistake. But then Pat Meyer doesn't develop these guys. Look at Broderick Jones. He hasn't developed at all since he's gotten here. Mason McCormick, awful transition from left guard to right guard this year. All right? I'm sick and tired of all of these high draft picks failing in Pittsburgh. And thank God Zach Frazier was pretty much bust-proof because he's just so freaking good out of the box. But the Steelers do not develop offensive line talent, and they need to go back to the guy that actually did a good job of that in the early years of the Mike Tomlin regime. And that is Mike Munchak. All right, go back to this guy. He was awesome as the offensive line coach in Pittsburgh, and he is currently available to hire. So if he wants the job, it's his as far as I am concerned. But, of course, I'm sure they're probably going to keep Pat Meyer because I guess he's got something against Mike Tomlin, something against his family that if Mike just can't let him go. Then we get to the second key decision that the Steelers need to make, which is what are they going to do at quarterback? And, there's a lot of options at their disposal. We never know which guys are going to be demanding trades out of places, so there might be more options. But these are kind of the main options, in my opinion, that could pop up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. It'll be interesting to see if they feel like either one of those guys is their guy for 2025. But outside of the organization, guys like Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, and Aaron Rodgers, you might be looking at this list and saying, Jack, all these guys stink, maybe besides Sam Darnold. But, you look at this list, the options aren't phenomenal. And that's just going to be the reality of the Steelers quarterback search. When you don't have the money to go out and get big quarterbacks. And by the way, if a quarterback is playing very well, not many of them are made available. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely in quarterback purgatory right now, and they're going to have to make the best, worst decision for this football team this offseason, whatever that is, whether that's Russ, whether that's Fields, whether that's Derek Carr, whether that's somebody else. We're going to be here covering it for you guys right here on Steelers Talk. So let me know down there in the comments section. Who should be Pittsburgh's QB1 next year? Who's your favorite to get the job? Do you want Darnold? Do you want to make a move for Stafford? Do you want Fields? Do you want Russ back? Let me know down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by let me know who you want to be QB1 for 2025. Another key decision for the Steelers to make this year is what the heck is going to happen with George Pickens. And this is going to be a huge storyline, guys. And it's probably going to be developing maybe even later in the offseason because I think George Pickens is probably going to want an extension because he is going into the final year of his rookie contract, all right? And that is where GP is at this point. I think he's going to demand an extension because I think he's frustrated with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. I think he's frustrated both with his production from an individual standpoint, and I think he's very much frustrated with the offensive collective production as well. And I think that GP is certainly somebody that feels like the production that he has gotten in the first years of his career is not indicative of the talent that he brings to the table. He probably views himself as a top 10, the top 5 wide receiver in all of football, and the production that he has given has just not really been there for George Pickens, if we're being completely honest with you, especially in the touchdown category. And I just don't know if Pittsburgh's going to want to pay up. I don't know if they're going to want to pay whatever the price tag is. I think George will probably want at least like 26, and it could get up to like $30 million per year, depending on how he feels about himself. And I'm just not sure with this production right here, guys, that the Steelers are going to want to pay up. I mean, just 3 touchdown receptions this year, 5 the previous season, and 4 in his rookie season. Now, it's absolutely a good point. You had Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields throwing you the ball in these seasons, all right? But if you're going to want to make $28 to $30 million a year, I don't know if these are numbers that are indicative of that kind of contract. And I think George is going to demand that kind of money out of the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. And my prediction here is that they're going to come to a stalemate, and eventually George is going to say, and he's going to request a trade. I think that the Steelers will probably agree, and they will oblige to trade him elsewhere at some point this offseason, and the Steelers are going to completely reboot the wide receiver position. And the worst part about this, guys, and what really kills me about this, is that a player of GP's caliber, in terms of talent, should be worth a first-round pick. But because of the behavior issues, because of the crash outs, because of not showing up to practices and meetings on time, according to reports, all these different things, and also the lack of relative number one receiver production the last 3 years, I think that the team that acquires him is probably going to get him for like maybe a third-round pick, maybe a fourth-round pick. Hell, at the worst-case scenario, maybe even a fifth-round pick, depending on what the market is. But, I'm really hoping that the Steelers and George Pickens can come together and find a solution. Whether that's keeping George Pickens for his last year of his rookie contract, and George agrees to that, whether that's finding a good extension number that's like $22, $23 million per year to keep him in Pittsburgh long-term. I hope they come to some sort of solution, but something tells me this is going to be a pretty hairy situation that might end ugly for this football team. Then another thing when it comes to the wide receivers, how aggressive are the Steelers going to be at the wide receiver position? We know they went after Brandon Ayuk. We know they went after Devontae Adams. We know that they went after Cooper Kupp and a bunch of other receivers and didn't get any of them in 2024. They went over, all right? And this was the wide receiver room last year. You guys can see their statuses heading into the offseason. A lot of people are not going to be here next year. And then if you trade George Pickens away, all you have is Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson on this list, and if you get rid of Cordero Patterson. So this might look like a completely different wide receiver room next year, guys. And personally, I would add at least two more wide receivers that are starting quality players this offseason. Probably one in free agency or via trade, and then the other one via the draft. All right, that one guy for the future, one guy for now. And I think that that's probably the best way to go about it if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, 4 more key decisions for Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin to make this offseason that will shape this team heading into next year. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Simply select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you get into the Game Time app, and they automatically filter through every single ticket in their database to find you the best deals on any ticket that you can find to a live event. What I love about using the Game Time app and why it's the only ticketing app I have on my phone is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's just for that first purchase, guys. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So another question that the Steelers will need to answer here is, can they get a game-changing running back to be kind of the focal point of this offense moving forward? Because the way Arthur Smith wants to run his offense is that the run game is the main engine, and in order to do that, in order to run the ball at will, you have to have a game-changing superstar-level running back. And if we're being honest with ourselves about Najee Harris, guys, I think he's a fine, starting-capable running back. He runs really, really hard. He's not a dynamic threat, man. He's not picking up 30 to 40-yard chunks, all right? He's somebody that fights for extra yardage and can get you the 1 or 2 extra yards you need to move the sticks, but that's not the way the Steelers want to play. They want to play dynamically. They want to play dominantly against an opposing defense where they can't stop the run. And unfortunately for Najee, throughout these years, he's been pretty easy to stop relatively. He doesn't play with great vision, and he does use his size to his advantage, but this year he had a lower yards per carry than last year. All right, so he's regressing in that regard. He had fewer touchdowns, a relatively the same amount of yards, but with the 263 carries that he had, he was pretty much a workhorse for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I mean, the fact that he just got over 1,000 yards is kind of sad, to be honest, guys. Like, that's not good production, and it's not the type of dynamic, game-changing presence that the Steelers need in order for this offense to be what it wants to be in the run game. So here are the top running back prospects in the National Football League draft this year. all of which I think have a chance to be a game-wrecking type of talent in this league. Guys like Ashton Gianti, that would be a first-round pick for the Steelers. Omarion Hampton out of UNC is a really well-rounded running back as well. Cam Scadaboo, that guy's a bust, all right? You want to bring back like Jerome Bettis-style football here in Pittsburgh? That is the bust right there. Then you got Dylan Sampson, who was unbelievable for the Volunteers in Tennessee this year, and somebody that I'm falling in love with in my film study for the draft this year, guys. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. Reminds me a lot of James Conner, who, by the way, is one of the best running backs in football. Of course, Conner played here in Pittsburgh for a while. Then Caleb Johnson can be a souped-up version of James Conner. I think he's that good. Then we get to another key decision that'll need to be made is, will there be any major changes on the offensive line? And, this is an offensive line that wasn't very good this year, plain and simply. They were one of the worst offensive lines in all of football, actually. And, you take a look at what they had to deal with here. Dan Moore Jr., man, he was doo-doo garbage baby in the second half of the season. He was awful after a really good first half of the season. Then Isaac Seumalo was fine. Zach Frazier had a really good rookie season, no problems with those guys. But then Mason McCormick and Broderick Jones really didn't have good seasons. McCormick was moving over from the left side where he played in college over to the right side, and it didn't really work out for him, if I'm being honest. And then Broderick Jones, of course, they moved him over to the right side his rookie season, and he's never looked comfortable on the right side. All right, so what worries me is that this is what it looks like next year, or what it's projected to look like. There's only 2 changes, and one of them just moved from right tackle to left tackle, and we have no idea if Broderick Jones is going to be a good player at left tackle. We have no idea if Troy Fautano is going to stay healthy. We have no idea if Mason McCormick is going to take that big step in year 2 at right guard. All right, those are 3 major question marks for this offensive line, and you pretty much have to go a perfect 3 for 3 if this offense is going to be the type of offense that they want to be next season. And there's no way around it, guys. You need to get this big leap from the offensive line. All right, you look at any Arthur Smith offense that's had success, it's always helmed by a dominant group up front. All right, and the Steelers need to get to playing that kind of football next year, or it's going to be another season of bottom 10 production offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And frankly, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is going to be next season. Then we get to another thing here, and this is going to be a big question. Do they trade any of their expensive defensive pieces? And I think the answer is no, because you look at the big defensive contracts, right? You're paying 5 players over $100 million against the cap next year. You're paying T.J. Watt over $30 million again, all right, and he's getting older. Minkah Fitzpatrick didn't have a great season production-wise. You've got a $22.3 million cap hit slated. I'm guessing these 2 probably get restructured, by the way. Cam Hayward will have almost a $20 million cap hit. Highsmith is sitting at 18.6, and Patrick Queen, who he signed last offseason, goes up to 17.6. So that's a grand total, guys, of $108.5 million on 5 players on defense. All right, this is the problem with that I have with Mike Tomlin. Too much spending. I love all these players, by the way, but it's too much spending on defensive players, and there's not enough. And right now, you're just sending the scraps to the offensive side of the ball, and we see the results here in Pittsburgh. My prediction, guys, everybody stays put. I think the one guy that I would consider trading is Minkah, but he's essentially a player coach at this point. He is like Mike Tomlin's best friend. So there's just no way he's going to trade his best friend. All right, he's just not going to do it. They're going to restructure him. They're going to keep him in Pittsburgh, and I think that they're going to continue this trend of defensive spending here in Pittsburgh. Final key decision that they're going to have to make is at the cornerback 2 spot. Do they bring back Dante Jackson? Do they go with Corey Trice Jr. on the outside and go with that avatar duo with the long physical corners of Joey Porter Jr. and Corey Trice? The early reports here, guys, is that the Steelers want to bring back Dante Jackson, and Dante Jackson wants to come back to Pittsburgh. So I think that is a really, really bad idea, guys. I think Dante Jackson was a really big issue for the Steelers defense this season in coverage. You take a look at his PFF grades last season, and they were abysmal. Now, PFF grades aren't gospel, but I can tell you, based on the film that I've watched from this past season, guys, this is absolutely backed up by the tape. He's terrible in man coverage. That's evidenced by a 49.4 overall grade that ranked 111th out of 116 eligible corners. And then the coverage grade was even worse at 45.1. This is the guy that the Steelers are desperate to get back as their number 2 corner? I'm sorry, man. Let's go get a better option. Let's go get an upgrade. Why are we settling for a guy that's the 111th best overall corner in the National Football League according to the grading? Makes absolutely no sense, and the Steelers need an upgrade at this position. Can't be Dante Jackson, in my opinion, and I understand he lucked into a couple of interceptions this year, 5 interceptions. He was in the right place at the right time. The dude can't cover in man coverage. That's a huge liability in a conference here in the AFC and in a division in the AFC North with guys like Jamar Chase, with guys like Zay Flowers. All right, you got to have guys that can cover and hold up in one-on-one coverage. Dante Jackson can't do that, so you need to upgrade. So discuss it below. Should Dante Jackson be back next year as this team's CB2? Personally, I want this team to go out and make a big move at corner to put alongside Joey Porter Jr. and solidify this secondary. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section with a yes or a no. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's show. We got more offseason coverage coming your way here on Steelers Talk in future days, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button to join our family. All right, our segments are in the books.
Before we get on out of here, who do you got tonight?
I got the Los Angeles Rams.
You got the Rams? I think I'm going Vikings.
I think that teams really don't play well after playing Detroit. That Lions team just wipes you out, man.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be the case for the Vikings. I think that, not that the Vikings don't have anything to play for, but obviously the Rams have a little something special to play for the people in Los Angeles that are struggling right now. You know, this just seems like the kind of quote-unquote scripted moment where the NFL is going to want LA to win, whatever you want to say. This just feels like Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, that Super Bowl combo, is going to be able to handle Brian Flores' defense, and they beat them earlier in the season.
And then it would be Rams-Eagles next week, right?
It would be Rams-Eagles next week.
I think I would pick the Rams to beat the Eagles.
I wouldn't. I'd pick the Eagles.
Even with Nakobe Dean's injury and all of...
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're going to Philly. That's a warm weather team going to Philly, a physical ass.
And it's going to be cold as hell.
And it's going to be cold as hell.
Short week.
I think that the Eagles win that game.
Fair enough.
Whether it's the Vikings or the Rams, I think the Eagles go to the Super Bowl this year.
Enough.
That's my prediction. All right, that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you to everybody that super chatted. Thank you to everybody that stopped by. We will be going live on Thursday. Again, guys, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time later in the week. I'm going to have my perfect offseason plan, which includes the first mock draft that we're going to do for the Pittsburgh Steelers on this channel this year. So make sure you guys join us on Thursday. It's going to be a good one. Until next time, guys, here go Steelers.